Good evening, everyone. Welcome to IQI Australia Friday Property Talk this evening. And your presence means a lot to us. Thank you for joining us this evening. My name is Lee, and I'm one of the team leader here in IQI Australia, and I will be your host tonight. And if you have not crossed paths with IQI Australia, IQI WA is the first branch and a headquarter of IQI in Australia. And IQI WA is a Perth-based project marketing company, real estate agency, and we specialize in off-the-plan house and land packages, off-the-plan in particular to apartment developments, brand new developments, so that is our niche. And this evening, we are very privileged to have Brian Taylor with us to share a wealth of knowledge with us about building inspection. So Brian has been in the industry, the building industry, for over 45 years now. So he has basically seen a lot. So, and he also worked as a site manager for many development, as well as some of the commercial properties as well. So we are very lucky to have him with us this evening to share some of the important things that we need to know when you buy a property, what to look for, and of course, the service that he can provide as well. So we've been working with Brian for about 6 to 7 years now, I believe, and it will be many more years to come, Brian. And sometimes it feels like gym building inspection is part of IQI. And every time when we have a settlement, your service, Brian's service will be included. Like we will offer it to our clients, see whether they would like to have their building inspection done. Frankly speaking, a lot of the home buyer have not heard of this service, building inspection service. I thought back of when I first bought my first home, I have never heard of these services. And of course, I didn't have that done. Now look back, if I have known there is such a service available, I'll definitely engage someone to go through my new home before I make the payment or take over the home, because you don't know what you don't know. So a lot of the job, although we can inspect our home by ourselves, but someone who has 45 years of experience, have that industry knowledge, will be able to pick up little things that we might not know. So that's what the building inspector is for. Yeah. So this evening, if you have any question about our presentation, feel free to leave it in the comment section, and we will go through that at the end of our presentation or Brian's presentation, and we will try to answer all your questions. If not, leave us your contact detail. One of us will get in touch, or we'll get Brian to get in touch with you. And Brian has been so supportive to us, not only to provide service to a lot of our clients, a lot of our home buyers, and sometimes he also helped us to, as part of our due diligence. So before we pick up any project, we like to, consult Brian as well from his experience, pick his brand, and just make sure that when we pick up a new project, it is going to be a good project that we're going to sell. And anything that we're unsure, Brian always happy to share his knowledge with us. So we have been very blessed to work with you, Brian. Yeah. So without further ado, so I'll pass the time to you, Brian, and you might need to unmute yourself first. Yeah.
All right. Good evening, everyone, and thank you, Leanne, for the introduction. And thank you for asking me tonight to be able to give all your viewers insight into what I do in building inspections. As Leanne said, my name is Brian Taylor, and I'm from Jim's Building Inspections, Yokai. Before I tell you a bit more about myself and my background in the building industry, I'd just like to fill you in my association with IQI WA. I've actually known Lily, Derek, and many members of our team for well over 6 years, and it's been a privilege to be part of the process in satisfying so many of their clients and helping them to invest in properties in West Australia. Hopefully the building inspections that I have supplied have given their investors peace of mind regarding their new purchases. Please bear with me as I get the slideshow set up. I've owned the franchise for Jim's Building Inspections, Wechat, for the past 7 years. In that time, I've completed many inspections all over the metropolitan and country areas of West Australia. I've been very honoured in this time to have been the Building Inspector of the Year in our company for the past 4 years. I'm a registered builder with over 45 years experience in the building industry. I started with a pre-apprenticeship course in carpentry and joinery, and then worked as a carpenter in Perth for a few years. I then moved to Melbourne, where I had my own business doing house framing. From this, I went into housing and commercial side of building, and site supervised a number of different buildings, ranging from police stations, schools, nursing homes, apartment blocks, and 2 Coles shopping centres located in Melbourne and Brisbane. Over the years, I've travelled and worked in different parts of Australia, which has expanded my experience with a lot of different aspects of the building industry. I then decided to use all this experience and become a building inspector. If you're thinking of purchasing property, there are a few different ways that it can be done. The first is a pre-construction property, which are developments that are ready to commence or still under construction. These are often brought off the plans. They are usually apartments, townhouses, or units. Secondly, there is new construction, where the property has been completed, but no one has ever lived in it. And thirdly, there are established properties that have had previous owners. These properties can range in age from a couple of years old to heritage properties that are well over 100 years old. I'll refer to these different types of properties as I go through the different types of building inspections. Many buyers wonder if they should get a building inspection when they purchase a property. Buying a property is one of the biggest investments that you'll make, and the building inspection will give you peace of mind, and your property does not have any underlying problems. The first photo is of an old house that had a lot of structural defects and needed a lot of work to repair it. The second photo is from a new construction property where the roof wasn't finished to the correct standards. By getting a building inspection done, it will help you to determine the condition of the property. A qualified building inspector will be able to conduct an inspection of the property and determine whether it is in good condition and if any of the following are an issue: incomplete or defective work, cracking, especially the slabs, and safety hazards, especially electrical work, unauthorised renovations or extensions which have not been approved by the local councils. Next, I'll look for structural faults. Professional building inspectors can quickly see things that a buyer may not see. Without having a building inspection, you can't be certain that the home you're buying is structurally sound. Finding out later can have very expensive consequences. Thirdly, an inspection will reduce your risk. Whether you're a regular buyer or new to purchasing real estate, purchasing a property is not without risk. Buyer can do their own inspections. They may knock on some walls, open cabinet doors, turn on the lights and flush the toilets. However, they may not be aware of things they're unable to see. A qualified building expert knows what to look for, and in particular will see through any improvements designed to cover up defects. An inspection is an out-of-pocket expense. However, it is a very small one compared to the expense of buying a property with unforeseen defects that need rectifying, or worse, cannot be rectified at all. Another reason is to ensure government compliance. The last thing you want to deal with after buying a new home is finding out it hasn't abided to the local government regulations. During a pre-building inspection, I'll check the residual current devices are to regulations. Also ensure that the smoke detectors are hardwired into the home's electrical system and in the correct position in the house. These measures will ensure that your new home complies with all government regulations. Types of inspections depending on the type of property you have bought. For established property, a pre-purchase and timber pest inspection is very popular. A pre-purchase inspection is a house inspection where I check for the structural integrity of the house, including the roof space and the subfloor if applicable. I check for problems with electrical appliances, plumbing, smoke detectors, and the RCVs. Finally, I let the client know the smaller maintenance work that may be required. With the timber pest inspection, I check inside and outside the house for any signs of termite or termite damage. I talked earlier about purchasing property that is either from the plans or has just been newly built. This is when a new construction inspection will ensure that your property is being built to the correct standards. There are 4 stages of new housing construction. All stages can't happen if you've brought a house, townhouse, or unit at pre-construction. An apartment is different, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. First stage is the slab. During this inspection, I check that all measurements are correct and accurate. I also ensure that the slab is level. Also, if I find any cracks in the slab, they are measured so that they can be monitored during the rest of the build. Lastly, I check that the plumbing pipes are in the correct position as per the supplied plans. The next stage that is done is brick height. During a brick height inspection, I measure all rooms and ensure that they are correct as per the plans. I also check that the walls are plumb and door frames are being hung correctly. I will also ensure that the height of the walls are correct, and lastly, that the face brickwork has been finished to a proper standard. The third stage is called roof cover or lock-up. With the roof cover or lock-up stage, I ensure that the roof timbers are structurally correct to the design and the roof cladding has been completed correctly to the Australian standards. I also check that all external doors and windows have been fitted properly. The last stage is called the practical completion inspection or the PCI. This is when the house has been completed and is ready to be handed over to the purchaser. This is a very thorough inspection where I ensure all of the following are checked. The hard render plaster walls and also the plaster ceiling and cornices are to Australian standards. I check the standard of workmanship in regard to the painting and the tiling. I also ensure that all doors and cupboards are opening and closing properly. Appliances are all checked to ensure they are working on the day. I check that all the floor coverings have been laid correctly and are what is documented in the plans. Lastly, I check all aspects in the roof space, such as the roof timbers, the installation, and the safety of the electrical wiring. If it's an apartment that you've decided to purchase or invest in, it is only the final stage inspection that you would have. The items that I would inspect during a PCI of an apartment include ensuring that front elevation and general layout is in accordance with the plans. I also check that the workmanship follows Building Code of Australia and the Australian standards. I also look at the outside areas, the balconies, the car park space and the storage sheds. I check the flooring and each individual room. This is then reported under the heading of each room, covering such things as the quality of finish, ceiling and cornices, walls and skirting, windows and frames, tiling, doors, cabinets and closets. I open shut all doors, windows, cupboard doors and drawers. I also look at the drainage to basins, basin overflows and toilets. Lastly, I run hot and cold water, ensure that the hot water service is working. I also check the strength of the water flow. I also check that all appliances such as ovens, hot plates, range hoods and air conditioners are turning on. Over the years, I've completed many inspections, and I would now like to share with you a few of the common defects that I have reported on. In the first photo, it shows roof sheets with screws missing. This roof had a lot of the roof screws missing, and if there had been a lot of wind, these sheets could have easily blown off. Looking at the second photo, most people would think there was nothing wrong with this wall, brick wall. But actually the wall is missing weep holes. Weep holes need to be there in case any pipes burst or water gets into the cavity. The weep holes are where the water can escape and therefore not cause damage to the brickwork. The third photo shows a lot of rubble from the render left in the gutters. And over time, this would eventually cause the gutters and downpipes to block. Photo 4 shows roof screws left in gutters. On this, roof screws have been left in the gutter. They'll need to be removed as eventually they will rust and cause damage to the gutter. The first photo here shows a roof space with no installation. This photo is from a practical completion inspection, so it was a big surprise to the owner and myself to see no insulation had been installed. The building company's reason was they just had simply forgotten to put it in. In the second photo, we have exhaust fans and a range hood that have not been ducted out. These appliances need to be ducted to the supplied roof blooms so that any fumes are dispersed to the outside of the house and not into the roof space. Photo 3 is showing doors that have not been completely painted. The tops and bottoms of external or wet area doors need to be sealed or painted because they'll eventually warp from the moisture in the room. Now, in the last photo, we had door stops that are missing. This might seem a trivial defect, but it's a very common one. If door stops aren't installed, it won't take long for cracks and dents to start appearing on your brand new walls, and you'll need to be repainting them. What makes my service stand out above others? Being reliable and professional when dealing with clients is paramount. I ensure all clients are called back quickly by me once they've made contact. However, in the case of overseas investors, I ensure I contact IQI WA to get all the details. I know that time is crucial and I ensure quotes are sent, inspections scheduled and questions answered in a timely manner. 24-hour reporting is probably the single biggest thing that our clients appreciate. They're very happy when I get their building inspection reports back to them within 24 hours. We are able to achieve this thanks to a custom-made app called Build Inspect. Our reports have a very small amount of fine print. Most inspection reports have pages of limitations, exclusions, and conditions. We only have a few easy to understand terms and conditions. There's also no jargon. You don't have to be a builder to understand our reports. We use diagrams, photos, and everyday words to explain what is wrong and what you will have to do to fix it. The next slide will give you a bit of an example of what our reports look like. All these reports are written to Australian standards. With a new construction practical completion report, it is set out under the following headings. Safety hazard, this may include electrical problems, or another example could be staircases or balcony railings that are not up to standard. Non-compliance, this is when something's been completed that does not match the plans. And for example, a window that has been moved. Substandard workmanship, this is a standard of finish. Example of these are paint drips, broken tiles, mortar missing from brickwork. Incomplete works, this is when something is missing from what has been documented. For example, handles missing from cupboards or even insulation, as you saw earlier, not being installed in the roof space. In the first photo to the left, this is the front page of your report you will receive, a photo of your house and your address and everything. The second page is a non-compliance expected. It's, as I talked earlier, it's a ceiling fan that hasn't been ducted out to the roof space, out to the outside. Due to the amount of work I do for IQI WA, I do provide special discounted rates for anyone purchasing property through them. These rates apply to apartments, units and houses, and can be all-stage inspections or just the practical completion inspection. Please contact IQI WA directly if you are interested in receiving a quote. Thank you so much, everyone, for taking the time to find out about building inspections in WA. That's all I have for you now, so I'll hand you back to Leanne.
Thank you so much, Brian, for such a detailed presentation. And let me go through the message quickly to see is there any question that's popped up. We have many people from overseas actually watching with us this evening. We have people from Malaysia, we have people from Cambodia, and from Canada as well. Yeah.
Must be as wake up during the night.
I know, just to find out building inspection in Australia. Yeah. So Brian, I'm just going through some of the photos that you have shown, especially those up on the roof. So I was just thinking to myself, if I were to inspect my property today, I don't think I can actually get onto the roof space or actually know what I'm looking at, because just thinking about my own experience when I first did my, first bought my own home and the inspection I did, all I did is just look around and then turn on the tap, make sure the water is flowing. And then I think what I did is, my friend, we brought a hair dryer along and then test each single power point, make sure they're working. That's all we did, because we have no idea what to look for. So I probably bought a house with lots of internal defects without knowing. But anyway, from now on, I know you have inspected all my properties, so that was good. Yeah. So sometimes, like what you said, it's a small cost. So if we spend that much money to buy such an expensive asset, a couple $100 is worth spending to have a professional to come out to actually go through everything thoroughly, so we can have the peace of mind and confidence that, the money that we spend, we're actually getting something that is in good quality. So we really appreciate your work.
Thank you.
Let's see, no question yet. So just quickly about the cracking, that is probably the most common question that we get, as a sales agent and for yourself as well. How, with the cracking, what is acceptable, what is not? Like, is there an industry standard that people should sort of know or pay attention on?
With, say, a slab, there's different stages, and normally the first cracking is sort of stage 1, and then it's got to be monitored for 12 months. And over that 12 months, if it's gone to stage 2 or above, it needs to be repaired. So there is sizes and that in the regulations. So it's, so that's why whenever I do a slab, I make a plan of exactly where those cracks are, the actual thickness of them and how long they are. So then later down the track, especially like floors that have got floor tiles on that could crack. So when they do floor tiles, the tilers must know they've got to use the proper rubber glue if there is cracks there, because it could, crack down later on. So with those cracks, cornice cracking, it's normally just normal. It's settlement these days. So, the houses get built a bit quicker these days. So there's not as much time as they used to have to settle the house. And, so that's where you're getting, and especially cornice cracking, because you've got hard plaster and you've got a soft cornice. So you've got 2 different materials. So, they move at different times and weather-wise. So you're going to end up with cracking there. So, but I know they look unsightly, but it's nothing serious most of the times. So.
Yeah. Okay, that's good to know. And sometimes, we do get cracked a couple of years down the track as well. So they usually are small, as long as it's not, getting bigger and bigger. And so,
you just got to keep monitoring it. And if they do get bigger, well, then, I've been to a couple lately that are 5 years old, the people were worried about their cracks and that, but that's it. It's about, that time where it should have finished settling and that, so.
Like what you say is it's more sort of cosmetic rather than the actual structure has concern. Yeah, that's good to know. And you mentioned that you will, a part of your service, you look at the smoke alarm that is hardwired and everything. I know there is a new regulation this day from the government a couple of years ago now to have that in.
We, not being an electrician, I will comment on where they are. In like a second-hand house, they can't be older than 10 years old. So before you sell that house, you have to confirm that those smoke alarms aren't over 10 years old.
All right. So you will check and make sure it's actually compliant as well. Oh, that's good. Yeah. So that's one thing that I did not check.
Where they are. Where they are in the house. They've got to be in certain spots.
All right.
So outside the bedrooms and stuff like that. So so as long as they're in the right spot, but they've still got to confirm that they're not over 10 years old.
Is there a number of smoke alarm that we need to install for each house?
Well, it depends on the design. It's where you could have a bedroom down that end, a bedroom down that end, 2 bedrooms up there. You need to have smoke alarms outside each bedroom and towards the kitchen. So.
Right. So
and upstairs and downstairs, you got to have them done properly by an electrician.
Mhm. For people that who have just tuned in, we have Brian Taylor with us from Gym Building Inspection, sharing with our audience about building inspection. So if you buy a property here in Australia, this is a service that you can use to check the house before you actually settle. So Brian will provide that service. Let me just quickly check again. Yep. So far, so good. No question popping up from our chat room. Yeah. All right. So far with a lot of the works that we passed to Brian, they're all brand new properties like apartment and house. And I must say, I still get a report of about 20 or 30 pages. That's just to show how detailed is Brian. So he will go through every single thing. And when you talk about small little thing like door stopper, that sort of thing, frankly speaking, we can just overlook it totally and without knowing. So, but you always pick up small little things like that, so detailed. And my buyers, all our buyers are very thankful for your work. Yeah. So even though it's brand new, it doesn't mean that the property has problem. It's just a small little thing that should be there and it's not there, being overlooked. For example, the installation that you were talking about is simply being forgotten. I can't believe that. Yeah. And okay, the other question would be, Brian, say if we engage you to come and check the house, so we got the report, and then the developer or the seller have fixed everything, do you provide the service to come back to recheck everything?
Yes, I do. A lot of times your customers have asked me to come back to check everything. So I do offer that as well. So at a small price, so, to come back. So, yeah.
Sounds great. So that will be part of the service then instead of
another, that extra bit of service. So people got peace of mind that what was found has been fixed.
Correct. Yeah. And other than residential, do you do any other building inspection?
Yeah, I do. Oh, I do all type. As I said, I've worked in commercial a lot. So I do commercial works, factories, a lot, all anything that needs inspection, I will inspect really. So done it over the time. So yeah.
That's good to know. So other than residential, so Brian also actually provides service to, say, if you invested in a commercial property, childcare center or medical center, things like that. And Brian
shops and stuff like that.
Yeah, sounds great. So you can cover those as well. I just have a little comment here from Lily saying, I have been using Brian's service since 2014. So please don't retire first. You probably will use your service for another 10, 20 years. Yeah. Yeah, I think, we don't have any more questions from the audience. Is there anything else that you would like to add in to your presentation?
Well, no, I think what I've shown is what I do. Yeah. And, the people who are going to buy for you guys, they at least they'll get that special deals. They'll, I do a thorough job. I, pride myself on that. Yeah. And, I've been doing it for a long time, so I know what to look at and everything. So, and I want to thank IQI WA for you.
We should be the one
done all your houses and units you've all brought. So it's been good journey.
Oh, thank you, Brian. Yes, it has been a really good journey. And with the 45 years of experience, I'm sure you have seen it also. Nothing can escape from your eyes. That is for sure. Yeah. All right. I think we will finish our presentation earlier today. It's 8:40 now, since we don't have any more questions from our audience, and our contact detail, or actually we haven't put up our contact detail there, but if you would like to engage Brian's services, even though if you haven't buy the property from us, we're still happy to pass along Brian contact detail that he can look after your purchase. Yeah. So thank you everyone once again for joining us this evening and to learn something about building inspection, something that many people are not aware of, but it's very important to have it done when you buy your property. Yeah, once again, thank you, Brian. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. And yes, so yeah, more business over to you soon. All right, thank you everyone. Sorry?
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you for coming. Yeah. Thank you and good night. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.